If you've ever tried to find a place to live in London, you know it's tough. But what if I told you the problem is way, way bigger than you think? A new report has just dropped, and it's painting a really stark picture. We're not just talking about a slowdown, we're talking about a near total collapse of the city's home building. So yeah, let's get into what's being called a full-blown emergency.
Okay, let's start with a number that just jumps off the page. 95%. That is the drop in new home construction starts in the first 9 months of the year, compared to what the government says we need. I mean, think about that. That's not a slowdown, it's basically a complete standstill. It's pretty shocking. And, the people who wrote this report, they are not pulling any punches. They're calling the situation in London's construction industry close to an emergency. And that's a big deal, because this isn't just numbers on a chart, right? This has real-world consequences for jobs, for the economy, and, well, for anyone trying to find a home.
So the big question is, how? How did a global city like London get into this kind of a mess? It's a huge question, and to really get our heads around it, we have to look at the data. Just look at this chart. It really tells the whole story, doesn't it? That tiny little bar on the left, that's the number of new homes started this year. Now look at the bar next to it. That's the average over the last 5 years. And the one on the right? That's the government's target. It's staggering. This isn't just a dip, it's a complete freefall. The city is building at a pace that doesn't even come close to what its people need.
All right, so what on earth caused this to happen? Well, the report points to what you could call a perfect storm. It's not just one thing. It's this nasty combination of economic problems and some huge new regulations that have, well, basically made it almost impossible to build in London right now.
At the heart of it all is this really brutal economic squeeze. Imagine this. On one hand, the costs to actually build anything have gone through the roof. We're talking construction materials, borrowing money, all of it. But then, on the other hand, the value of the land developers build on is actually falling. It's that classic rock and a hard place scenario. And for developers, it means the numbers just don't add up anymore. So they stop building. And as if the cost problem wasn't bad enough, there's a demand crisis happening at the exact same time. The overseas investors who used to snap up apartments before they were even finished, they've backed off. People here at home are staring down these incredibly high mortgage rates. And that Help to Buy scheme that helped so many people, that's gone. And the result of all this is pretty wild. London is now sitting on the second highest number of brand new, finished, but unsold homes on record. I mean, why would developers build more if they can't even sell what they've already got? But here's where it gets really interesting. The report says, look, all those economic issues are huge, for sure. But the single biggest thing that's grinding development to a halt right now, it's a new regulatory system, specifically the Building Safety Act. Now, this act came about for a very important reason, following the Grenfell tragedy. It created this new 3-stage approval process for any building over 6 stories. And the key part, the one everyone is talking about, is what's called Gateway 2. Think of it as a massive red light. It's a hard hold point where absolutely no construction can start until a brand new regulator has signed off on every single detail of the design. And, well, the numbers speak for themselves. Look at what's happening at this crucial Gateway 2. Just 9%. 9 of projects have actually made it through and been approved. Meanwhile, a staggering 46% have been either rejected, withdrawn, or just ruled invalid. And the rest, 45%, are just stuck. They're sitting in a queue, waiting for a decision. So this one single process has effectively put a freeze on building the very kind of taller buildings London absolutely relies on for its housing supply. Okay, so this is about more than just some new rules or a temporary economic downturn. The report makes a much, much bigger point. It says what we're actually seeing is the complete breakdown of the entire model that London has used to build itself for the last 20 years. The main takeaway here is huge. The housing crisis isn't just about things being too expensive anymore. It's a fundamental, systemic failure of how the city develops.
You know, it's funny. We think of London as this hub of private development, but that's a pretty new thing. If you go back to the 70s, it was mostly councils building things. Then the 90s came along and we saw these massive regeneration projects like the Docklands. But the model that's collapsing right now, the one based on shiny high-rises and international investors, that really only got going in the 2000s. And now, today, it is slammed into a brick wall.
And this whole model, it was built on a few really big bets, a set of core assumptions. Bet number 1, property prices will just always go up. Bet number 2, overseas buyers will always be there, ready to buy apartments off plan. Bet number 3, land values will get so high that you can tax them to pay for all the affordable housing you need. And maybe the biggest bet of all, that the whole system could just keep swallowing more and more red tape and regulation without breaking. Well, here's the kicker. In today's world of high interest rates, global instability, and soaring costs, every single one of those bets has failed. Every one of those assumptions has been shattered. The entire foundation of that model has just crumbled away. So, okay, the old model is broken. What's next? Where do we go from here? The report doesn't just point out the problems, it also lays out a path forward, with both some quick fixes and a call for a much bigger long-term rethink. So what's the game plan? The report gives us a few key moves. First up, fix the planning system. That gateway bottleneck has to be cleared fast. Next, bring in more flexibility, especially with things like affordable housing quotas. The report also says we need to get creative, unlock sites that are just sitting there, and maybe even look at using some of that lower quality gray belt land. And finally, you've got to help people actually buy these homes with new support schemes to replace the ones that have disappeared. But it's about more than just ticking off a policy list. The real argument here is that we need a whole new philosophy, a new set of guiding principles for how we build in London from now on. Principle number 1, it's got to be more flexible. The old, rigid way of doing things was fine when the market only ever went in one direction, up. But the world is a lot more volatile now. The new system has to be able to bend without breaking. Second, speed. It has to be more rapid. Look, with interest rates this high, time is literally money. Every single day a project is delayed, the costs stack up, and it can be the thing that kills the entire development. Speed isn't just a nice to have anymore. It's absolutely essential for anything to get built. And number 3, more support. The report floats a really interesting idea, a public fund that can step in when the market takes a nosedive, like it has now. So instead of everything just stopping, this fund could keep things moving. It would work against the cycle. When the private sector pulls back, the public sector steps in to keep things stable and keep construction crews working. Let's be clear, this goes way beyond just housing. This is really about the future of London itself. What we're talking about here is a crisis for one of the most important cities on the planet. And there's a reason the report uses that powerful phrase, national emergency. It's because London is supposed to build a quarter of all the new homes in the entire UK. So when London stops building, the whole country feels it. We're talking about a hit to national economic growth and the very real risk that the entire construction supply chain could start to crumble. And this, right here, really sums up the whole mindset shift that needs to happen. For decades, the thinking was, growth is inevitable, development will just happen, our job in government is just to control it and take a cut. But that world is gone. The new reality demands a totally different approach, one that doesn't just assume growth, but actively goes out and makes it happen. So all of this leaves us with one massive final question. If the old model for building a city like London, a model that relied on endless growth and foreign cash, is well and truly broken, what do we replace it with? What are the principles we should be using to build the great cities of the 21st century?